Hi, this is Era, the host of the Tamil Creator Podcast, where I learn about, celebrate, and discuss hot topics with creators from all over the world.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hi everyone, this is Era, your host. As you know, I've been working really hard to get great guests and deliver good content to you. Now I need your help with 3 things. Number 1, give this podcast a 5 out of 5 review on whatever platform you're listening to, whether it be Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts. Number 2, please sign up for the newsletter. There'll be special benefits for just newsletter followers. And follow all our social media platforms. Really want to get the word out to a growing audience. And number 3, join the VIP fans program, where you will get benefits like personal shoutouts on the podcast, producer credits, and the chance to speak with me one-on-one and or private group discussions with guests I've had on the podcast. That's awesome, right? So get more details on my website at thetamilcreator.com or reach out to me at hello@thetamilcreator.com. Thank you, guys. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Tamil Creator. This is your host, Era. Today, I have a special guest, pronounced Yanchan. I've been saying his name wrong all this time. I'm glad to finally know that I can say his name correctly. And Yanchan is a Carnatic hip-hop producer who went from growing up in Scarborough to doing a tour in India recently with his good friend, Shan Vincent de Paul. And he's recently released a project called the Scarborough Beat Tape, which I'm excited to hear more about, and he'll be chatting about today. So Yanchan, why don't we kind of just start off and let the people know who you are. Tell us a bit about your upbringing and kind of how that sparked your love of, music.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. First of all, I first started getting into music at the age of 6 when my parents enrolled me into Mridang class. I used to go to religious Balavi class as a kid. And one day there was a talent show and I saw someone playing the Mridangam live, and it just spoke to me right in that moment. And I remember tugging on my mom's shirt and like, I need to learn this instrument. Like, what is this, right? The week later, I got put into Mridang class, and then from then on, I just developed this new passion and love for the instrument, and that led me down a path to fall in love with Carnatic music as a whole. And since that moment, all I cared about was just how can I become the best Mridangam player in the world. And that led me down the path to eventually pick up production. Growing up in Scarborough and Toronto, I was exposed to a lot of genres of music. And then I felt like, what would it be if I could merge my love and foundation for Carnatic music and Tamil music and culture into modern hip hop and R&B? And when that idea popped in my head, at first I was like, I don't know, can this actually happen? And then I would study producers like Timbaland, who made huge records like Get Your Freak On with Missy Elliott. And I heard like a North Indian tabla roll in the song. And then I would hear like a Hindi sample. And that's when it really got intriguing for me. And I started producing on my own, which led to what I'm doing now, which is pretty much, I'm a full out music producer now, combining my love for Carnatic music and hip hop.
So like there's a lot of, I guess, ways you can kind of go. The first thing I always like to ask is, when I see people that are kind of in music or creative arts, my first question is always about the parents, in the sense that it's interesting that you express a desire to learn an instrument and your parents put you in that like a week later. But I guess kind of as you got older and older, because I know like even myself, I learned piano when I was younger, but I'm not musically inclined. Like I hated it because I sucked at it. I think it's kind of like a cycle. If you like it, you practice more and you get better, and then you keep kind of going. But with yourself, like as you got older and you kind of, went from like something that was kind of a passion to something that you wanted to turn into a career, how did your parents kind of take that? Or like, yeah, just your family in general?
Luckily for me, my parents were very supportive from get-go. They always knew the talent I had, and I'm privileged in that sense. Like, they pushed me. They would come to all my shows. They would help me get shows. When I was 13, they let me live in India by myself to pursue Mridangam. And my guru at the time in India, I was literally staying at his house, and we had like camp style training, practicing 8 hours a day. Like, my whole life was just surrounded by music. So I'm really grateful for them for that. I think for me, The turning point was 4 years ago. I went to, well, before 5, 6 years ago, I went to Laurier for economics. And even when I went to that program, it was all because I'm okay, what if music doesn't work out? Let me just have a backup plan. So I did the first year and I tested it out, and I just knew it wasn't for me. So after that year finished, I sat down with my parents and I just told them straight up, I'm like, hey, like, you guys always knew how much love and passion I have for music. And I really want to take this leap and step forward, and I want to make this a career. And I know you guys are not going to understand this now, because for them it's foreign, right? There was no one in my family that ever pursued music and made a career out of it. So it's all new to them, which I completely understand. And I told them straight on, like, hey, just give me a few years and I'll show you, like, the same passion and hunger you saw me put into Mirzangam. I'm going to put it into production and what I'm doing now. And I'm going to create a whole new subgenre of music that hopefully one day you guys can appreciate. And yeah, when I had that conversation with them, they realized how serious I was about this, and they just let me be free. And from that moment, I've been pursuing music as a career ever since. And now, luckily, I'm able to do it as a full-time career.
Do you have siblings as well?
Yeah, I have an older sister. Shout out to my sister, Yanchan. She's also someone who has always supported me, had my back when it came to music. So that environment definitely helped me elevate with my growth as a musician.
Does she have like similar background, like in like music or some kind of creative arts, or is she like a different like path altogether?
No, when we started music together, we were both in Carnatic vocal lessons. So we both did, our parents put us in a lot of like keyboard class, music class. We did a lot of classes together. She's a really talented singer as well. But as time went on and she went to Waterloo and started pursuing more of the studies, I just kept going down the path of music. So from then on, yeah, I guess I took it more as like, I want to make this into something bigger. But definitely the passion for music was there between both of us.
So tell us, you talked about kind of growing up in Scarborough, and then you obviously released this new project that's coming out fairly soon called the Scarborough Beat Tape. Tell us a bit more about that in terms of, being, raised in Scarborough. Tell us specifically about that project as well. Like what's got you so excited about it?
Yeah, man, I'm really excited and pumped for this new project. It's called the Scarborough Beat Tape. And pretty much last year, right pre-COVID, I went on an India tour with Shan Vincent de Paul. I was accompanying him. Shout out to Sean. And when I came back, I wanted to release all my inspiration from India in the form of a beat tape, hence the India Beat Tape. It was like a collection of all the memories, all the inspiration from the songs I would hear on the streets. And I put it into this tape, and I just put it out as a tester because I never really released beat tapes and really push it out as like a marketing thing. But I'm like, I love production. Clearly, there's some people that love the fusion that I do with Tamil music and hip hop. So let me put this out, and I put out some beats, and it caught the attention of a lot of people. And organically, it's almost at like 200,000 streams on Spotify. So when I saw those numbers, I was like, wow, like there's clearly a market for this, and people just like listening to music by itself, like instrumentals, whether they're cooking, they're cleaning, studying. People like having music in the background. And from that moment on, I decided, I'm like, this is before COVID again. I thought I would be traveling the world, going to different countries. And the whole goal was every country I would go, I would take in all the inspiration and I would release in the form of a beat tape. So like the China beat tape, the Greece beat tape, things like that. That was the whole idea and concept behind the series. And then when COVID came and I was stuck in quarantine, I'm always making beats in my room, in my home studio every day. And growing up in Scarborough, I'm like, I just got this idea one day. I'm like, hey, like, there's so much inspiration that I've got from being home, right? Whether that's walking down the street and going to a Tamil store, getting Tamil food, whether that's going to a Tamil temple, whether that's going to certain landmarks in Scarborough, right? I'm always taking inspiration for all the things around me. And I'm like, okay, let me take all this music I'm making at home and let's put it in another beat tape. And this time, let's have it be a love letter to the city that raised me. And whenever I talk about Scarborough, like, I know there's a lot of people that are like, I don't mess with Scarborough, like, I'm just gonna get an area. But for me, I love the fact that I grew up in Scarborough. And I love the fact that there's so much Tamil culture here and so much multiculturalism and diversity. I'm like, okay, let's do this. So let me put my city on the map and let me release this beat tape. And people who grew up in Scarborough are definitely going to relate to a lot of the titles in the beat tape, because I specifically picked out certain landmarks and certain names that I grew up loving. So that's why I'm just really excited about this project. I want people to really feel like they watched me grow up just through this beat tape.
Which part of Scarborough did you grow up in?
So I moved around a lot, all in Scarborough, but I grew up in Malvern area, so Seven Oaks,
Yeah,
right
Melbourne.
by right by Military Trail in Nielsen. So that's where I grew up, and then I moved around to Nielsen and Ellesmere, right in front of Centenary Hospital. Then I moved around to Morningside and Old Finch. Then I moved around to Morningside and Ellesmere, and now I'm by Morningside and Lawrence area. So all of Morningside I've covered.
That's so funny. I grew up, I started off at near Mary Shad, which is like, one part of Malvern.
Yeah, yeah, very shy for sure.
Then I went to Tom Longboat, which was like on like I lived on Crow Trail.
Yeah.
Then I went to Chad Crescent, which is like near Empringham. And then finally ended up, now it's like right by UFT Scarborough. So like, not me when I was living at my parents' house. I moved once I got married, but yeah, I tell the same thing. Like Scarborough is like, I feel like Scarborough is so unique in the sense that like, my wife's from Mississauga, and I tell her like your city is like so cookie cutter, it's so bland. Like
Yeah.
Scarborough, I feel like there's so much like history there. Yeah, there's obviously like there's parts of it that weren't great, and like there's a number of reasons why. But honestly, like you said, the whenever I drive back into Scarborough, it's like all these memories of like stuff I did in high school, or like just like good and bad memories. So
Definitely.
like when somebody tells you Scarborough, what's like a place you think of right away?
Oh man, Scarborough Town Center.
Yes.
Growing up, that was like a staple place where you would go to see Tamil people. Like I've
Yeah.
had so many, great and bad experiences there, but I wouldn't change it for the world, because it's like, okay, that's the place to go if you're in Scarborough. You want to watch a movie, go to Phoenix Players.
Yes.
There's like a certain thrill that came with that.
Yeah.
You're out with your friends, right? Or if you're going on dates, you don't want to see your aunt and uncle down the next hallway in Essex, but you just want to run away from them. Like there's so many. Yeah, man. I definitely loved growing up in SDC.
What's like the most nostalgic thing that you kind of did in the Scarborough area with your parents? Like, is there anything like you talked about with friends and like other stuff like that? But like, what kind of things did you do around Scarborough with like family? I only ask that because I feel like looking back at like my childhood, especially like most first generation, like your parents, they didn't
Yeah.
really have time to do that kind of stuff. So it's like the small things. So I'm like just curious, like, what did your parents do with like you and your sister that like just sparks memories of kind of just growing up in Scarborough?
We definitely, like what you said. We didn't do much outdoor activities because my parents were always working too, and we were always doing a lot of activities on our own. But a staple park would definitely be Morningside Park. Like I feel like that was like a place in the summertime or springtime where all the families would get together and do barbecues or just have a good time outside.
I'm excited to hear. I'm kind of excited to hear this beat tape now to see what the titles are and kind of the sounds. And did you kind of incorporate like, so if somebody hears a beat like or like an instrumental without hearing the or without knowing the title, would they know what you're referencing, or like would they have to kind of see the titles as well?
I think they would have to see the title just because like, it would be different if these songs were made in Scarborough by like Scarborough artists. I feel like that would help paint a better picture. Definitely people who grew up in Scarborough, after they see the title and then they hear the music, I feel like they'll be able to like step inside my mind and really see the vision of, okay, this is how Yanchan was feeling when he went to these places.
How was your experience kind of, going on tour? Because you said going on tour is what sparked kind of this idea of, going to, it started off with India and kind of collecting all the memories and into like a beat tape and then kind of doing it when you travel. So tell us about that, because it seemed like that was your first time touring. And like, yeah, just tell us about that whole experience. Because, I've never, you see or hear about this thing, but like, how is it actually kind of going through, the travel and like meeting fans and just doing the shows?
Yeah, going back to India, going on tour in general was always a dream for me, especially doing a tour in India. Because India, I feel like it's like a second home for me because of the time that I spent there when I was 13. So I've always wanted to go back, but I want to go back with something that was fresh and new. So to go back with a close collaborator like Shan and do something like Mridanga Raps back in India was like such a like heartfelt moment for me. And going on tour is not as easy as people think. People see all the glitz and glamour on social media, but they don't know all the work that goes behind, especially when you're doing independent tour. Like this whole tour was pretty much independent, and shout out for Sean for setting that up. So I got to see a lot of the grunt work, you know, going to rehearsals before before the actual shows, making sure everything's on point, connecting with the tour manager, make sure we don't miss any flights, like making sure we're energized, making sure the performance set is on point. In between doing radio interviews, doing press conferences, like it was crazy. In between that, Sean and Gajan would shoot their own music videos while I'm doing other things on the side. And obviously, I don't know all of India, so there are parts where we were by ourselves. So it's like, okay, how do you navigate through each city? So it was definitely a learning curve, but it was so exciting, man. Like I don't know if you ever heard the expression, you got to be respected somewhere else before you're respected home. And I really felt that because we would go out there and sometimes people would see us on the airport and be like, yo, are you Sean and Yanchan? And they would want to, you know, take photos with that. So like having that feeling and seeing the love out there was just such like, I can't describe that feeling.
Like how was the actual experience of like doing the concerts? Like you said, feeding off the energy of the crowd. Like, was there any particular show where like the energy was just like off the charts? Like, it was just ridiculous?
Bro, the first show we did was in Pune, and that was the VH1 festival. And that was my first ever festival experience. I've never performed at a festival before, so I was really nervous. But then watching Sean perform, that hyped me up because I saw all the people that came out for Sean. And it was crazy because like before us, like it was like the whole festival lineup, there's a bunch of acts that come on. And we weren't the main act or anything, but we were midday on the last day of the festival. So I was getting kind of nervous because you see this big field, you want to do a show where it's filled up, obviously. But it was our first time there, so we didn't know if it would be filled up. And then I saw Sean performing, and then just like that, more and more people started coming in. And then by the time it got to the Mridanga Raps portion, there was a good like 300, 400 people in the crowd. And I was like, damn, like this is how much of an impact we're making out here. So yeah, when I sat down on stage and we started Mridanga Raps, like the crowd is cheering. Oh my gosh, man, like it was so exhilarating. Because like for them, it's a new concept, right? No one's ever seen a rapper and a Mridanga go head on with each other, especially live. So for people who are fans of Mridanga Raps on YouTube and IG, but they got to witness it live, I think that was definitely a memorable experience. And for our last show in Chennai, that was an amazing experience too, because Chennai was like home for me. That's where I was. So to go back there and end the tour off in that city was amazing. And we actually invited our fans to sit on stage with us or around us when it came to the Mridanga Raps portion. So it gave that whole concert, like Carnatic concert experience, but in a different way.
That's crazy.
So that was amazing, man.
Tell me about like, I'm only gonna bring up this song once, but like, man, that summer hit Best Friend. Like, it's so funny because like my wife and I had twins 7 months ago, and like
Oh,
we did like
congrats.
we did like a video, like a fun little video with them, and like we had somebody, the song they use in the background was actually Best Friend.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's like on my list, so I love that song. Wait, so like, how did you like that title, Best Friend? Are you guys actually like really good friends?
Yeah, like I've probably known Sean for about 4 or 5 years now,
Got
and
it.
he was someone who I looked up to as an artist, and I just wanted to connect with him. Funny enough, I somehow got connected with his mother, and through that, I was able to get connected with him. So that was a whole process just to connect with him. And after I connected with him, we had a natural bond through music, and he was always interested in bringing more Tamil culture and Tamil sounds into his music. So I felt like I was like the perfect fit as his producer in that sense. And then the more we started collaborating, the more the chemistry just grew. And then now, yeah, he's one of my closest friends. And the India tour definitely, I would say, brought us closer together too. But that's why, like, when you see that Best Friend music video, I feel like why I connected with a lot of people. Like, none of those shots were fake. Like, it was all candid shots that Gajan was taking. Shout out to Gajan for taking those amazing shots. But yeah, I think when you naturally work with someone more and more, you get to know them on a personal level. And as for me as a producer, those are the feelings I'm trying to bring out into the music. So when we were making Best Friends, we're like, man, we need to make a song about brotherly love. Like, I feel like those things are not talked about a lot, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, let's take out male toxicity and just talk about a love for our bros. And that's how the concept came. And then I sent him that beat like a month before we actually started the recording process. I already knew that beat was going to be a hit just because of how iconic the sample was. And I've always wanted to sample that song and give it a fresh new spin. So when I sent that off to him and he's like, man, we have something here. And we just hit it off in the studio and just went back and forth. And that's how the song came together.
I'm personally excited about kind of the independent Tamil music scene. How do you feel? Like, are there, I'm sure you're going to say excited, but like, who are other people that, you're excited about, like maybe collaborating with or like, connecting with in some way, other than, some of the like people we already talked about, mainly being Shan, but who else are you kind of excited about?
Man, there's so many artists on the come up right now. It's crazy. Like, I love seeing all the talent in our community. And every artist has their own imprint, their own unique sound that they're cultivating on their own. But certain artists that I'm really excited about and I would love to collaborate with, Priya Raghu. I think she's going to be an unstoppable force. And just her whole vibe, the look, the music, everything is so unique. There's TJ. I'm actually have a song coming out with TJ out from UK. He's also a really talented artist. D, obviously, with her song with Enjoy and Jami. She's really talented. Sam out in the UK, who I've already collaborated with, another crazy lyricist and artist. So many, yeah. There's a lot of people. Ganavia, so many artists out there, man.
I also like, your videos that you did on Instagram before the whole rebrand, but like I think actually you still have them under the video section, but why did you kind of, start doing that consistently? Just putting it out there, like, just in like a short video, kind of show people how you come up with like different beats. Like, what was the motivation behind that?
I mean, for me, I've always wanted to give back, especially to the producer, mixing engineering community, because I feel like the level I'm at today as a producer is only because of the mentors I've had in the past and all the tutorials I've watched on YouTube or on IG from other producers I look up to. And people always ask me, like, okay, yo, how are you making these beats? Like, how do you find a way to chop the sample and find that 4-bar loop that works? And so I'm like, okay, let me try to show people a quick process of how I do things, and hopefully they can learn from it, and hopefully it's entertaining, because this is literally what I do every day. And obviously with COVID and quarantine, like I needed something else to do, and I want to put it out there into the world, being at home. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I make beats all the time. Rather than just making for myself, let me show the world the process. And eventually some of the videos started catching fire, and then I'm just like, okay, let's keep rolling with this. So that's how it really started.
Got it. And, beyond the creative aspect of kind of being a producer, musician, all of that, there's a business side to it as well, right? Like, obviously you're doing this, you love doing it, but it's got to obviously have some kind of monetary payout as well. And, for me, I've always been curious about the different aspects of music. Like, how do you actually make a living? How do you actually generate money as a producer or like a musician in general? Like, for specifically what you do as a producer, how do you make money?
Yeah, I mean, first off, it's not easy being a musician. I'll say that straight off the bat. You are essentially an entrepreneur. You are your own business. So you gotta find the different moving parts that can help create a flourishing business, right? The same way you build up a Walmart or McDonald's, you gotta build your career the same way. So over the years, luckily enough, I was able to find my own team, Charlotte, Mike, and TJ. Those are the two guys that have been helping me with my artistry and push me forward. But a few ways to monetize things. Obviously, one way is streaming, right? As an artist, you get a certain percentage off of every stream you get. And all it takes is for a listener to listen to 30 seconds of a song for it to count as a stream. The payout isn't as much when you look at the ratio of each song, but once you start hitting like the millions, especially on Spotify, like for example, like it might have changed now. If you hit like 1 million streams on Spotify, you can make close to $4,000, right? So when you get to that level, it can get really, the good for artists to make money. Another way so as a producer, I make money when I sell beats, right? So you can, and depending on the bigger you get as a producer, you can ask for more upfront, you can ask for more in the back end. There's different deal structure you can make depending on the artist and the type of connection you have with them, right? So that's another way. And then another way as well is artist development. So my team and I, we just started a new company called MT Education, where we help develop artists. Because a lot of artists, I feel like, don't understand that there is a science to how to become a great artist. You don't just go in the studio and you record and that's it. Like sometimes, yeah, that energy helps with the song, but there's certain things you need to know, like how to write a great song, how to get great melodies, how to produce a great record that speaks from you as a person. So all these things ties into artist development. And in the past, I feel like a lot of labels, they used to have artist development budgets set aside in departments that they would funnel. But these days, I feel like all those budgets are just cut, especially when the streaming era came in. So artist development is another way that you can make money as a.
So do the artists come to you and like it's almost like you're kind of doing one-on-one coaching, like you and your team?
Yeah, there's different ways that we help develop artists, but I personally love the one-on-one coaching method. It's like an artist comes in and they want a team to help elevate their music, a team of professionals who know what they're doing, have industry experience. So let's say, for example, an artist comes in and they've never recorded a song before. They don't know how, right? So we would teach them the little foundational things that they need in order to create a great song. And then I take care of the creative aspect. So I'll be the in-house producer, the engineer, and then I'll produce on the spot and then mix a record. And then, yeah, they go home with great quality music, right? But I think beyond that, a lot of the things that we teach is more of the mindset, right? It's more like a lot of educational things we teach on the foundation of, okay, on the music business side, right? A lot of artists don't know, okay, there's something called publishing. Like there's ways you can make money that are not really talked about, I feel like, a lot now. But I think we're in a great area because we're in the era of information. So the more that we can educate each other, I feel like the more artists there are that's going to be able to thrive in this industry.
How do you identify artists that you're going to do this coaching with? Because I imagine your time is scarce, right? You want to kind of pick people, not necessarily talented, but maybe like certain criteria that you know that, hey, if you're going to spend this time with them,
Yeah.
there'll hopefully be some kind of good outcome. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you kind of vet that?
Yeah, we are very particular for who we work with. But to be honest with you, man, as long as you're easy to work with and you're willing to learn and you can take constructive criticism, like those are the basic requirements that I personally need to help develop an artist, right? Like obviously there's different tiers. There's an artist who's just starting out, there's an artist who's already been releasing music and has built some sort of fan base. But for me, it's more about the energy in the studio.
And have you thought, like, as kind of COVID is hitting, kind of, the world has changed, business models have changed. Have you thought of some other ideas? I have a couple, but I'm curious what you're going to say. Like other ideas that you could potentially make money as a producer or like, like as a musician as well?
Yes, I mean, so when COVID started, my team and I started developing online studio sessions. So the same way we'd offer studio artist development services in person, as long as an artist has some sort of recording setup at home, we're able to do the same process online. And I'm still able to create the same type of quality of music as if they were in the studio with us. So that was something cool to test out with over the past year. And now as a producer, the same way we're doing this Zoom call right now, I'm able to do Zoom call with artists around the world and still give them custom production. As long as I can see them and I can hear their vision and they can hear the music that's coming out of my speakers, from there, it's just more the back and forth. Obviously, nothing beats the in-person. Like I feel like that's like number one, but even doing online sessions these days, I feel like comes really close.
That's super interesting. I'd never thought of that. One thing I thought of immediately when I saw your videos on Instagram was if Yasin actually kind of like sold a course or something on like how to chop a beat, like here's how you do it in like take 1 45-minute session and like you'll kind of be able to kind of create something and then have like level 2 and 3. I feel like I don't know much about music, but I watched those because I was like super fascinated by like how you did it. So I'm sure like people that are serious about like making beats and stuff would definitely want to learn from you. But I was just curious if you thought of that.
I've definitely thought about putting on workshops. So
Yeah.
that's definitely something that's crossed my mind. But I think putting something like that together takes a lot of time and energy.
Yeah.
And if I were to put something like that out, I would want to make sure it's really nicely put together. Not
Yeah.
something I'm doing it for
Yeah.
the sake of just grabbing money. So
For sure. What's a failure you've kind of experienced? And I know you don't like the word failure, you go by learning
yeah,
lesson.
yeah.
So like what's a learning lesson in the last, 3 to 5 years that you kind of learned the most from?
Take every shot you get, man. And for me, I used to sit around waiting for the moment to come to me. I would sit around, like, especially playing mridangam as a kid, because it got to my head. I'm like, man, I'm a really good mridangist. Everyone should be calling me. And then no one would call me for conscious. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, what's the disconnect? And then I realized, no, you need to network. You need to put yourself out there. And the more I started developing that habit and pushing myself out there, and it wasn't easy. Like I'm kind of introverted too. Like I love just being to myself. But the more I push myself, and I feel like I took every shot that came to my table, even though I was scared, right? Because you have this doubt, like, okay, how are they going to choose me for this contest, or how are they going to choose my song for this? And yeah, there was a lot of contests I've done where nothing came out of it, in the sense as I didn't make anything. But last year I did the mixing contest judged by Mixed by Ali and Young Guru, and those are two guys in the mixing engineering world that I look up to. They've mixed records for Beyonce, Kendrick, like all the big dogs. And I just took my shot, put a song out there, and I ended up making the top 32. And that was for engineering, not even for production. And for me, I always felt like my biggest strength was production. But to be able to be recognized in another area outside of that was like, for me, it was like, okay, there's something here and then it pushed me to work more on my mixing, which I feel like helped elevate that even more. So I'm like, if I didn't take that shot, I wouldn't have gotten better as an engineer. I wouldn't have been able to make those connects with those top industry professionals. So that's one thing, definitely. I feel like there were moments in the past where I feel like I didn't take my shot, and I look back and I'm like, shit, okay, I definitely should have taken that moment, should have put my foot on the gas for that opportunity. But hey, you live and you learn, right?
That's super interesting. I would have never thought that you're introverted. So I guess for you, kind of networking is unnatural because I guess how do you do networking? Like what's your version of networking?
I mean, like having conversations like this, right? Like I want to be genuine, but yeah, it's hard sometimes when you're trying to, it's like, okay, you want to build a business relationship with someone, but you want to be genuine. You want to, like, for me, it's like, that's another thing I care about, having genuine relationship with all the people I connect with. Because I feel like when it's just business, then like, I don't want no fakeness or anything in the relationship. Because I feel like that can mess things up down the line. So I definitely focus on the personal aspect first before the business. But yeah, I don't know. It's just having, regular conversations like this that lead into something bigger, right?
Got it. And like, what keeps you going? Like, what's your why?
My why is my vision, man. The people that I surrounded myself with always push me to have a big vision. And I've always been hard on myself. And for me, watching, seeing other people get to their dreams, get to their goals, is especially like seeing people like A.R. Rahman break into the industry out here with Slumdog Millionaire, and studying successful people like Drake. I'm like, man, people like The Weeknd, like Weeknd's from the Scarborough, and I saw the man on Super Bowl. You think he just sat there one day, is like, and then he just magically got on a Super Bowl? No, like that was a process, and us as viewers got to see some of that process too. So my vision is just, I want to have a vision that's so big that it drives me every day. And for me, that's to connect the dots between the Indian and American markets. I want to give a different perspective of what a mridangam is, what a mridangam player is. A mridangam player doesn't necessarily have to mean someone who's just in a Carnatic setting, accompanying a vocalist or violinist or doing a solo performance. Why can't you take something that's ancient from that culture and merge into another culture? So that's the main goal. Like my biggest dream, to connect those dots and really, like, I see a day, man, one day where like you see top Billboard charts, but a lot of those top artists are Tamil artists. Like imagine a song, Priya Raghu featuring Missy Elliott or something like that, or like Yanchan featuring Drake, but then there's a Mridangam interlude in it, or Drake singing Tamil lyrics the same way you would see Latin lyrics, like you see certain waves that come in the music industry, right? And that's the same wave I see with Tamil music and Tamil culture coming into the mainstream market of pop music, especially.
I love it. I love it. Oh, I guess, yeah, you're talking about different people that you kind of, watch their careers. So who's somebody, I know you want to kind of you want to write your own story. You don't want to like follow somebody else's story, but whose career do you want to most emulate?
Drake, man. Like Drake was a powerhouse, not just as an artist and a musician, but as a businessman too. Like he level up in all areas, I feel like, and that's what makes him such a great artist. He found an opportunity, he took it. He had a great team behind him, right? He elevated, he growed as an artist from project to project, and you got to see that, right? As a businessman, he became more and more wealthy, and then he started putting that money into other businesses, you know, and then he built his label up, OBO, and then his merch, his brand, like his brand became so huge where he has a merch line that sells out in seconds, and that's the same type of value and impact I want to have. Like I want to be able to drop a merch line one day, and I have 1,000 people waiting up the line for like Dirty Elephant merch. Dirty Elephant is the name of my brand and label that I want to eventually put out. But yeah, and especially it's more close to my heart too because he's from Toronto. Like it just makes the story even more like close to me. It's like he's not that far away from me. Like he grew up with the same type of resources that I did, right? And he was able to take advantage of his resources and build it into something better. And watching him scale up his business was like so inspirational for me. So definitely he's someone I would want to mimic.
How, like, you talked about the business side of, with Drake and kind of how he became like a really good business person. How do you feel about the topic of money? Is that something that you kind of, not openly, but like you're comfortable talking about, or like, do you have money goals?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to be really wealthy. And for me, it's like I've always wanted to be financially free. And the reason for that is I feel like when you're financially free, you don't have any other worries. You can really just focus on what you want to do and what you love. And that's the problem, right? Most of the times you get sidetracked because you got to make money to fund your main career, but that's exhausting sometimes. Like when I was working 9 to 5 and then going to the studio right after, that was mentally draining, physically draining. Like I was killing myself to go after my dreams. I'm still willing to put in that work because I'm obviously not where I want to be. I have a lot of big goals, but you need money to survive. That's fundamental, right? But how do you do it in a way where it's like, okay, you're not killing yourself and you're still able to provide, do something that you love. So yeah, like it is a touchy topic, if I'm going to be honest with you, when it comes, like I don't talk about it all the time, but I would say it's definitely really important if you want to be able to do what you love.
That's the one thing I don't like tell people how much I want to make, but for me, it's the same thing as you. Um, I feel like money is a tool. I just look at it as a tool. It's not a god to me, but it's a tool.
Yeah.
And like you said, if I keep, my thing is I try to keep my expenses low, know where I want to spend my money, and just try to have as much free time to kind of do the things I want to do. For me, that's going to be the new definition, I think, of retirement, or like freedom. It's not freedom of like all these other freedoms, but it's freedom of time, because you can make more money, you can't make more time. So I definitely agree with you about that.
No, you said it right, for sure.
Um, what's been the impact of the Toronto Tamil community on you, like from a personal, professional point of view?
Man, I love Tamil people, man. Like especially out here, I feel like I'm at the position where I am at now because of the support system I've had from the Tamil community. And it all stemmed from obviously me being playing rhythm as a kid, doing a lot of live performances. So I had a lot of support from that, and then I was able to transition those fans from my mridangam into the music I do now and into my production. So the Tamil culture, like yeah, like I was exposed to so much culture, right, growing up as a kid, and I was put into so many classes as a kid, and from there I met so many people in the Tamil community through those classes, through those shows, who a lot of those people ended up becoming great friends, great fans, and those are the people I want to make happy because those are the people that come to my show, buy my merch. Tamil people fucking rock.
What's like a new belief or like a behavior habit that you kind of implemented recently that's really changed your life or improved your life, I would say?
Pushing through the hard times. Like I feel like that's a habit you have to cultivate. Example, like if you're not feeling well and you still need to get something done, like a deadline, you try to push yourself to get it done. Not to say I'm perfect, I can't do it all the time, but I feel like the more I push myself, even when I'm like really tired, like let's say I've had a long day of I'm just making beats all day, but I still have to do something for a client, right? or like I'm going to push myself the extra yard to get it done to the best of my ability. And by the end of it, I always feel so much better. I'm like, okay, it's like you were able to push yourself, even though you're feeling shitty, you could do this again. And the more you repeat that cycle, I feel like that's what leads to greatness. That's what leads to longevity.
And how do you kind of, like you said, as someone that's kind of a musician or like producer, you're pretty much an entrepreneur. Nobody's telling you what to do. Like you kind of, if you don't do work, you don't eat. But like, so how do you structure your day or weeks to kind of do work? Like, do you have like one day for certain kind of work and another day for that? Or do you split up your day? Like, how do you do that?
It depends. I usually have a certain routine I follow. And man, that was like the hardest thing. Like once I quit my job and I started doing music full time, I'm like, I feel like I have so much time on my hands. Like, how am I going to? Because I didn't have a boss over me telling me you got to do this, you got to do this. So setting up a structure that worked for me was a process. I'm still trying to figure it out. But typically in a day, like I wake up, I have my routine. I like to make sure I have a clean environment every day. So in my studio has to be clean. My room, when I wake up, I got to do my bed properly. Because for me, an organized mind leads to an organized work ethic. And I feel like that how you start your day is how you end your day. So if I'm starting my day being clean and my mind's not cluttered, I feel like by the end of the day, I feel the same way. So that's one thing I do in the mornings. And then how I split my days. So in the morning, I'll usually do personal development stuff, aka whether that's like breathing techniques or just meditating, creative visualization, cleaning, and then I'll make beats. A lot of artists hit me for custom production, so if I have deadlines, I have like a task manager that I'll write down. So I have a bullet journal. This year I started working on a bullet journal, so like every month I'll have like a task. It's like, okay, and I'll try to writing it the night before of what I need to get done. So today, for example, I had a studio session with my team. It's like, okay, get this song done for this company. I have a podcast recording with Tamil creators, so I would put that down too. Get a beat done to put on your website. Get promo stuff done for the beat tape. Make sure everything's aligned. So there's different tasks that come every day. So I try my best to be organized with it. But yeah, it's definitely been hard sometimes.
Do you schedule any kind of like I imagine your days are like long. So like, do you have any breaks in the day for fun or like what do you like to do for fun or like how do you break up like those long work days that you probably have?
Yeah, nowadays, especially with quarantine and lockdown, I'm like, okay, I can't be doing music 24/7. Like I need some time away from it. So now that my parents, they've been spending more time at home. So I've been spending more time with them, watching movies, just having conversations. Now that the weather's nice, I've been going on walks, really enjoying nature. Um, I enjoy, like, if it came to sports, I enjoy like playing basketball and stuff. That's something I want to do more of now. But man, yeah, other than that, it's just been going on drives sometimes, like being near water. But yeah, I'm a pretty boring person when it comes to like
Do you,
outside of music.
do you find that you have trouble staying connected with like friends and family sometimes when you're like so engrossed in your work?
In the beginning, for sure. Because in the beginning, I'm like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes. But then I'm like, are you going? Is it really worth it if I make all these sacrifices and I'm at where I have, but I have no one to share that love with? Like, what's the point of putting all that work when you have no family beside you, have no friends to share those moments with? So I definitely prioritize those friendships and family time too now a lot more.
Got it. And what's a piece of advice that you would give to like your fellow aspiring fellow Tamil creators out there?
Be authentically you, and you have to fight for your vision every day. Like no one can literally be in your mind. So only you know what your vision is. So only you can help bring it to life. So I feel like for me, I've always knew what my vision was, and yeah, the vision was refined over time, and it's going to continue being refined through your experiences. But you have to find a way to think big and really go after it. That's something I would definitely try to engrave in people's minds.
Love it. That's a great way to kind of segue into, a fun game that I like to kind of call Creator Confessions.
Okay.
So we kind of, we got to hear more about your story, learn a little bit more about you, but this should be a bit more fun. So essentially, I'm going to ask you like a bunch of things, and you're just going to kind of tell me the first thing that kind of pops to mind, okay?
Okay.
Favorite Tamil food?
Uh, Kotoroti.
Can't go wrong with that. Something that scares you?
Something that scares me? Spiders.
Favorite show you're watching?
What was a good one? I just finished. Uh, Them. I love horror shows.
Okay.
I'm on Amazon Prime.
A place you're itching to travel to after this pandemic is over.
Man, so many places. Italy.
Fellow Tamil creator you want to give a shout out to.
Born to Sin, shout out. He's someone who I've been collaborating with, helped write a lot of my songs, and now he's a great producer. So Born to Sin.
Favorite childhood memory.
Favorite childhood memory? Man, playing with my dog, man, in the house I grew up with. A lot of great memories there.
Pet peeve.
Pet peeve? I hate hypocrites.
That's a good answer. Person or celebrity you look up to.
Celebrity?
Or just person. A.R. Rahman.
A.R. Rahman.
If you knew you're gonna die tomorrow, what's a regret that you would have?
I wouldn't have any regrets because I feel like everything that happened, I look back, I'm like, I believe things happen the way they're supposed to.
A celebrity whose life you'd want to experience for one day.
Oh, Drake.
And finally, a PSA you want to leave our audience with.
Okay, March 28th, new beat tape's coming out. Please go stream it. Go check it out. If you're a Tamil person especially and you grew up in Scarborough, you need to check this out. So yeah, May 28th, Scarborough Beat Tape.
All right. And with that, that's a wrap, as they say. Yanchan, you're amazing, man. That was a great interview. It was kind of interesting kind of hearing about your upbringing. So if anybody kind of listening to this, got inspired by your story and they're aspiring producer, musician, and they want to hit you up to kind of, ask questions or whatever it is, what's the best way to, get connected with you?
I would say contact my email, Yanchan@mtmusicgroup.com. But the email's on my Instagram bio as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you again for kind of, connecting on the podcast. And, for those of you listening, on to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.